The buzzing of the tech conference was almost deafening. The air conditioning fought to overcome the human heat of hundreds of executives in suits and ties, all there for the annual Innovation Expo in San Francisco. Amidst the crowd, Maya Sterling moved with a grace and purpose that made her stand out. At 35, she was the founder and CEO of NextGen Solutions, a company that had transformed the logistics software market in just 5 years. Her attire, an elegant navy blue dress, was discreet, but her presence was undeniable. She headed towards the booth of Titan Corp, the industry giant, her company's rival. Maya's goal was simple: to have a civilized conversation, perhaps find common ground for a future collaboration. What she found was Julian Thorne, Titan Corp's CEO, a man with a reputation for being as brilliant as he was arrogant. With his graying hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes, he was the epitome of corporate cynicism. "Hello," Maya said, extending her hand. "I'm Maya Sterling, CEO of NextGen Solutions. I'd like to." Julian cut her off with a short, condescending laugh. His eyes scanned Maya's body. From her simple dress to the identification badge he didn't even bother to read. "Ah yes, the NextGen girl. I hear you have an interesting software," he said, using air quotes with his fingers. "You must be their sales assistant. Where's your boss?" The word assistant resonated in Maya's mind. It was a scene she had experienced before, but never with such blatant impudence. The air in Julian's booth seemed to thin. "I am the boss," Maya said, her voice as cold as the air conditioning. "I'm the CEO." Julian's smile widened into a sneer. He leaned in as if sharing a secret. "Look dear, I don't know what your game is, but I don't have time for jokes. The conference is big. I'm sure there's a place for you somewhere. Maybe at the reception desk." The humiliation was public and deliberate. The gazes of some Titan Corp employees and other nearby executives turned towards Maya, and a murmur began to spread. Maya's skin, accustomed to dealing with invisibility and resistance, grew hot. She took a deep breath, remembering her grandmother's lesson. Anger is a distraction. Elegance is the best revenge. "It's not a game, Mr. Thorne," Maya said, her voice even softer, but with an authority that made Julian's smile falter for a second. "It's a fact. And the fact is that I have a product that your company desperately needs, even if you don't know it yet." She turned and walked away from the booth, leaving Julian Thorne perplexed. He wasn't used to being contradicted, let alone by a woman he had just called an assistant. His face turned red, a mix of fury and embarrassment. The seed of revenge was planted. Julian Thorne spent the rest of the conference and the following weeks feeding his obsession. He was convinced that Maya was an opportunist who had somehow taken advantage of someone to steal credit. He mobilized his research team to unearth any flaw in NextGen Solutions. What he discovered, however, was alarming. Maya's company wasn't just interesting, it was a threat. Their logistics software was faster, more efficient, and more intuitive than Titan Corp's, and it was stealing key clients. Julian's fury turned into a calculated plan. He would use his vast influence and unlimited financial resources to crush NextGen. The strategy was ruthless. Launch a massive defamation campaign on social media, spreading rumors about NextGen's financial instability and the vulnerability of its software. At the same time, he would use his contacts to prevent Maya's company from getting new contracts and investors. The attack was relentless. Social media was flooded with false information. Investors who had been interested in NextGen suddenly stopped responding. Existing clients began to question the security of their data. Maya's team became scared and demoralized. "We can't let him win," Maya said at an emergency meeting with her top executives. "He's attacking our weak point, trust. We need to fight back, and the best way to fight a lie is with the truth." Instead of hiding, Maya went to the center of the storm. She called a press conference and, with a frightening calm, answered every accusation, one by one, with concrete data, verified documents, and client testimonials. She didn't defend herself with words, but with facts. And then she made her master move. "Mr. Thorne has been trying to destroy us for one simple reason," she told the press. "He's scared. He's scared of the future. He's scared that innovation can come from anywhere, from anyone. And most of all, He's afraid to admit that his company is falling behind. She continued, revealing a series of vulnerabilities in Titan Corp's own software, which her team had discovered during Julian's attack. She exposed Titan Corp as a company that, instead of innovating, was trying to sabotage the competition. The press conference was a resounding success. The media, which had previously been eager for a scandal story, now turned against Julian. The public, who had been deceived by the rumors, now applauded Maya's courage and integrity. The defamation campaign disintegrated. But Julian Thorne was not a man who gave up easily. He was furious. He felt that the initial humiliation at the conference had been magnified tenfold. He decided to deliver the final blow, a hostile takeover attempt. He would use Titan Corp's profits to buy NextGen, no matter the cost, just for the pleasure of firing Maya personally. He arranged a meeting with Maya. He sat in the imposing boardroom, the air of his company hanging over them. "I'm going to buy your company, Ms. Sterling. I'm going to buy every one of your assets, every line of code, and I'm going to dismantle your company brick by brick. But before I do that, I want you to know that all of this could have been avoided if you had simply behaved like an assistant and obeyed me." Maya, however, was not there to be intimidated. She was there for her final move. She smiled, a genuine smile this time. "Mr. Thorne, I didn't come here to hand over my company," she said calmly. "I came here to hand over a contract." She slid a document across the table. It was a contract indicating that NextGen Solutions was no longer a private company, but a subsidiary of an even larger and more powerful corporation, Aegis Dynamics, a global tech giant known for its silent and strategic acquisitions. The deal had been signed 2 weeks before Julian's attack, but Maya had kept it a secret, waiting for the right moment. Julian Thorne's face turned white. The ink from the ballpoint pen he held began to run on his sweaty hand. His hostile takeover plan was no longer possible. He had wasted millions of dollars on a defamation campaign to destroy Maya's company when it was already under the protection of one of the richest corporations in the world. The humiliation he had caused her at the conference now reflected back on him, magnified by a mirror of his own arrogance. What is this?" he stammered. "This is the future, Mr. Thorne. And as I said, your company desperately needs it," Maya said. "Aegis Dynamics has an interest in your technology as well, and they are prepared to make an offer. A very, very generous offer." The irony was palpable. Julian, the business shark who had tried to destroy a woman he underestimated, now found himself at a disadvantage. He had been outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and finally outdone. Maya didn't need anger or revenge. She used her intelligence, her patience, and her vision. Julian's arrogance blinded him to the fact that the person he underestimated was, in fact, the most strategic player of all. In the end, Titan Corp was acquired by Aegis Dynamics. Julian Thorne was removed from his position as CEO. The man who refused to see a woman as his equal was now subordinate to her company. Julian's humiliation, which he tried to use as a weapon against Maya, was the very cause of his downfall. And Maya Sterling continued to build her empire, not as a vengeful CEO, but as the brilliant and strategic leader she had always been. The lesson was clear. Never underestimate the person you meet on the way. A black woman's greatest strength in the business world is not just her ability to fight, but her intelligence, which is often her most powerful weapon.